Buddhawajana, an anthology of Dhamma, revealing the hidden. Volume 9, Dhamma Primer. Meditation and its benefits. 4 developments of concentration. Bhikkhus, there are these 4 developments of concentration. What for? 1. There is a development of concentration that leads to dwelling happily in this very life. 2. There is development of concentration that leads to obtaining knowledge and vision. 3. There is development of concentration that leads to mindfulness and clear comprehension. 4. There is a development of concentration that leads to the destruction of the taints. 1. And what, bhikkhus, is the development of concentration that leads to dwelling happily in this very life? Here, secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, a bhikkhu enters and dwells in the first jhana, which consists of rapture and pleasure born of seclusion, accompanied by thought and examination. With subsiding of thought and examination, he enters and dwells in the second jhana, which is internal placidity and unification of mind, and consists of rapture and pleasure born of concentration, without thought and examination. With the fading away as well of rapture, he dwells equanimous and mindful and clearly comprehending. He experiences pleasure with the body. He enters and dwells in the third jhana, of which the noble ones declare. He is equanimous, mindful, one who dwells happily, with the abandoning of pleasure and pain, and with the previous passing away of joy and dejection. He enters and dwells in the fourth jhana, neither painful nor pleasant, which is purification of mindfulness and equanimity. This is called the development of concentration that leads to dwelling happily in this very life. 2. And what is the development of concentration that leads to obtaining knowledge and vision? Here, a bhikkhu attends to the perception of light. He focuses on the perception of day, thus, as by day, so at night, as at night, so by day. Thus, with a mind that is open and uncovered, he develops a mind imbued with luminosity. This is the development of concentration that leads to obtaining knowledge and vision. 3. And what is the development of concentration that leads to mindfulness and clear comprehension? Here, a bhikkhu knows feelings as they arise, as they remain present, as they disappear. He knows perceptions as they arise, as they remain present, as they disappear. He knows thoughts as they arise, as they remain present, as they disappear. This is the development of concentration that leads to mindfulness and clear comprehension. 4. And what is the development of concentration that leads to the destruction of the taints? Here, a bhikkhu dwells contemplating arising and vanishing in the 5 aggregates subject to clinging, such is form, such its origin, such its passing away, such is feeling, such is perception, such are volitional activities, such is consciousness, such its origin, such its passing away. This is the development of concentration that leads to the destruction of the taints. These are the 4 developments of concentration. Develop concentration. First aspect. Bhikkhus. Develop concentration. A bhikkhu who is concentrated understands things as they really are. And what does he understand as it really is? He understands as it really is. This is suffering. He understands as it really is. This is the origin of suffering. He understands as it really is. This is the cessation of suffering. He understands as it really is. This is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. Bhikkhus. Develop concentration. A bhikkhu who is concentrated understands things as they really are. Therefore, bhikkhus, an exertion should be made to understand. This is suffering. An exertion should be made to understand. This is the origin of suffering. An exertion should be made to understand. This is the cessation of suffering. An exertion should be made to understand. This is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. Develop concentration. Second aspect. Bhikkhus. Develop concentration. A bhikkhu who is concentrated understands things as they really are. And what does he understand as it really is? The origin and passing away of form. The origin and passing away of feeling. The origin and passing away of perception. The origin and passing away of volitional formations. The origin and passing away of consciousness. And what, bhikkhus, is the origin of form? What is the origin of feeling? What is the origin of perception? What is the origin of volitional formations? What is the origin of consciousness? Here, bhikkhus, one seeks delight, one welcomes, one remains holding. And what is it that one seeks delight in? What does one welcome? To what does one remain holding? One seeks delight in form, welcomes it, and remains holding to it. As a consequence of this, delight arises. Delight in the form is clinging. With one's clinging as condition, existence comes to be. With existence as condition, birth. With birth as condition, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair come to be. Such is the origin of this whole mass of suffering. One seeks delight in feeling, in perception, in volitional formations, in consciousness, welcomes it, and remains holding to it. As a consequence of this, delight arises. Delight in feeling, in perception, in volitional formations, in consciousness is clinging. With one's clinging as condition, existence comes to be. With existence as condition, birth. With birth as condition, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair come to be. Such is the origin of this whole mass of suffering. This, bhikkhus, is the origin of form. This is the origin of feeling. This is the origin of perception. This is the origin of volitional formations. This is the origin of consciousness. And what, bhikkhus, is the passing away of form? What is the passing away of feeling? What is the passing away of perception? What is the passing away of volitional formations? What is the passing away of consciousness. Here, bhikkhus, one does not seek delight. One does not welcome. One does not remain holding. And what is it that one does not seek delight in? What doesn't one welcome? To what doesn't one remain holding? One does not seek delight in form, does not welcome it, does not remain holding to it. As a consequence of this, delight in form ceases. With the cessation of delight comes cessation of clinging. With cessation of clinging, cessation of existence. With the cessation of existence comes cessation of birth. With cessation of birth comes cessation of aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair cease. Such is the cessation of this whole mass of suffering. One does not seek delight in feeling, in perception, in volitional formations, in consciousness, does not welcome it, does not remain holding to it. As a consequence of this, delight in consciousness ceases. With cessation of delight comes cessation of clinging. With cessation of clinging, cessation of existence. With the cessation of existence comes cessation of birth. With the cessation of birth comes cessation of aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair cease. Such is the cessation of this whole mass of suffering. This, bhikkhus, is the passing away of form. This is the passing away of feeling. This is the passing away of perception. This is the passing away of volitional formations. This is the passing away of consciousness. The first jhana is secure from danger and mara. So too, bhikkhus, when secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, a bhikkhu enters and dwells in the first jhana, which consists of rapture and pleasure born of seclusion, accompanied by thought and examination. On that occasion, it occurs to the bhikkhu, now I am secure from danger, and Mara cannot do anything to me. It also occurs that Mara, the evil one, now the bhikkhu is secure against danger, and I cannot do anything to him. Affection and hatred does not exist. Bhikkhus, there are these four things that are born. What for? Affection is born from affection. Hatred is born from affection. Affection is born from hatred, and hatred is born from hatred. When secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, a bhikkhu enters and dwells in the first jhana. On that occasion, affection born from affection does not exist in him. Hatred born from affection does not exist in him. Affection born from hatred does not exist in him. And hatred born from hatred does not exist in him. When, with the subsiding of thought and examination, a bhikkhu enters and dwells in the second jhana, the third jhana, the fourth jhana. On that occasion, affection born from affection does not exist in him. Hatred born from affection does not exist in him. Affection born from hatred does not exist in him. And hatred born from hatred does not exist in him. Serenity and insight. Bhikkhus, these two things pertain to true knowledge. What two? serenity and insight. When serenity is developed, what benefit does one experience? The mind is developed. When the mind is developed, what benefit does one experience? Lust is abandoned. When insight is developed, what benefit does one experience? Wisdom is developed. When wisdom is developed, what benefit does one experience? Ignorance is abandoned. One who inclines towards Nibbāna. Bhikkhus, just as the river Ganges slants, slopes, and inclines towards the east, so too a bhikkhu who develops and cultivates the four jhanas slants, slopes, and inclines towards Nibbāna. And how, bhikkhus, does a bhikkhu who develops and cultivates the four jhanas slant, slope, and incline towards Nibbāna? Here, bhikkhus, secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, a bhikkhu enters and dwells in the first jhana, which is accompanied by thought and examination, with rapture and happiness born of seclusion. This is that other kind of happiness, more excellent and sublime than the previous kind of happiness. With the subsiding of thought and examination, a bhikkhu enters and dwells in the second jhana, which has internal confidence and unification of mind, is without thought and examination, and has rapture and happiness born of concentration. This is that other kind of happiness, more excellent and sublime than the previous kind of happiness. With the fading away as well of rapture, a bhikkhu dwells equanimous and, mindful and clearly comprehending, he experiences happiness with the body. He enters and dwells in the third jhana, of which the Noble One declare, he is equanimous, mindful, one who dwells happily. This is the other kind of happiness, more excellent and sublime than the previous kind of happiness. With the abandoning of pleasure and pain, and with the previous passing away of joy and displeasure, a bhikkhu enters and dwells in the fourth jhana, which is neither painful nor pleasant, and includes the purification of mindfulness by equanimity. It is in this way, bhikkhus, that a bhikkhu who develops and cultivates the four jhanas slants, slopes, and inclines towards Nibbāna. Great fruit and benefit of Anāpānasati. Bhikkhus, mindfulness of breathing, when developed and cultivated, is of great fruit and benefit. And how, bhikkhus, is mindfulness of breathing developed and cultivated so that it is of great fruit and benefit? Here, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu having gone to the forest, to the foot of a tree, or an empty hut, sits down. Having folded his legs crosswise, straightened his body, and set up mindfulness in front of him, just mindful, he breathes in. Mindful, he breathes out. Breathing in long, he knows, I breathe in long. Or breathing out long, he knows, I breathe out long. Breathing in short, he knows, I breathe in short. Or breathing out short, he knows, I breathe out short. He trains thus, experiencing the whole body, I will breathe in. He trains thus, experiencing the whole body, I will breathe out. He trains thus, tranquilizing the bodily formations, I will breathe in. He trains thus, tranquilizing the bodily formations, I will breathe out. He trains thus. Experiencing rapture, I will breathe in. He trains thus. Experiencing rapture, I will breathe out. He trains thus. Experiencing happiness, I will breathe in. He trains thus. Experiencing happiness, I will breathe out. He trains thus. Experiencing the mental formation, I will breathe in. He trains thus. Experiencing the mental formation, I will breathe out. He trains thus. Tranquilizing the mental formation, I will breathe in. He trains thus. Tranquilizing the mental formation, I will breathe out. He trains thus. Experiencing the mind, I will breathe in. He trains thus. Experiencing the mind, I will breathe out. He trains thus. Gladdening the mind, I will breathe in. He trains thus. Gladdening the mind, I will breathe out. He trains thus. Concentrating the mind, I will breathe in. He trains thus. Concentrating the mind, I will breathe out. He trains thus. Liberating the mind, I will breathe in. He trains thus. Liberating the mind, I will breathe out. He trains thus. Contemplating impermanence, I will breathe in. He trains thus. Contemplating impermanence, I will breathe out. He trains thus. Contemplating fading away, I will breathe in. He trains thus. Contemplating fading away, I will breathe out. He trains thus. Contemplating cessation, I will breathe in. He trains thus. Contemplating cessation, I will breathe out. He trains thus. Contemplating relinquishment, I will breathe in. He trains thus. Contemplating relinquishment, I will breathe out. It is, Bhikkhus, when mindfulness of breathing is developed and cultivated in this way, that it is of great fruit and benefit. When, Bhikkhus, mindfulness of breathing has been developed and cultivated in this way, one of two fruits may be expected: either final knowledge in this very life, or, if there is a residue of clinging, the state of non-returning. Anapanasati, an ambrosial pleasant dwelling. The Buddha commented on the incidences of bhikkhus committing suicide by themselves or by encouraging and assisting others to do so. These body revulsion phenomena derive from reflections of repulsiveness. On this occasion, the Blessed One had given them the discourses of Anāpānasati. Bhikkhus, this concentration by mindfulness of breathing, when developed and cultivated, is peaceful and sublime, an ambrosial pleasant dwelling, and it disperses and quells right on the spot evil unwholesome states whenever they arise. Just as bhikkhus, in the last month of the hot season, when a mass of dust and dirt has swirled up, a great rain cloud out of season disperses it and quells it on the spot, so too concentration by mindfulness of breathing, when developed and cultivated, is peaceful and sublime, an ambrosial pleasant dwelling, and it disperses and quells on the spot evil and wholesome states whenever they arise. It is in this way, bhikkhus, that concentration by mindfulness of breathing is developed and cultivated so that it is peaceful and sublime, an ambrosial pleasant dwelling, and it disperses and quells on the spot evil and wholesome states whenever they arise. a bhikkhu who is not devoid of jhana. Bhikkhus, if for just the time of a finger snap, a bhikkhu develops mindfulness of breathing, he is called a bhikkhu who is not devoid of jhana, who acts upon the teaching of the teacher, who responds to his advice, and who does not eat the country's alms food in vain. How much more, then, those who cultivate it? Breathing in and breathing out is a certain kind of body. Whenever bhikkhus, a bhikkhu, when breathing in long, knows, I breathe in long, or when breathing out long, knows, I breathe out long. When breathing in short, knows, I breathe in short. Or when breathing out short, knows, I breathe out short. When he trains thus, experiencing the whole body, I will breathe in. When he trains thus, experiencing the whole body, I will breathe out. When he trains thus, tranquilizing the bodily formation, I will breathe in. When he trains thus, tranquilizing the bodily formation, I will breathe out. On that occasion, the bhikkhu dwells contemplating the body, in the body, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having removed covetousness and displeasure in regard to the world. For what reason? I call this a certain kind of body, bhikkhus, that is, breathing in and breathing out. Therefore, bhikkhus, on the occasion the bhikkhu dwells contemplating the body, in the body, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having removed covetousness and displeasure in regard to the world. Mindfulness of the body. Here, a bhikkhu gone to the forest, or to the root of a tree, or into an empty hut, sits down, having folded his legs crosswise, set his body erect, and established mindfulness in front of him. Ever mindful, he breaches in, mindful, he breaches out. Breathing in long, he understands, I breathe in long. Or breathing out long, he understands, I breathe out long. Breathing in short, he understands, I breathe in short. Or breathing out short, he understands, I breathe out short. He trains thus, I shall breathe in, experiencing the whole body of breath. He trains thus, I shall breathe out, experiencing the whole body of breath. He trains thus, I shall breathe in, tranquilizing the bodily formation. He trains thus, I shall breathe out, tranquilizing the bodily formation. As he abides thus diligent, ardent, and resolute, his memories and intentions based on the household life are abandoned. With their abandoning, his mind becomes steadied internally, quieted, brought to singleness, and concentrated. That is how a bhikkhu develops mindfulness of the body. One who has developed and cultivated mindfulness of the body. Again, bhikkhus, when walking, a bhikkhu understands, I am walking. When standing, he understands, I am standing. When sitting, he understands, I am sitting. When lying down, he understands, I am lying down. Or he understands accordingly, however his body is disposed. Again, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu is one who acts in full awareness when going forward and returning, who acts in full awareness when looking ahead and looking away, who acts in full awareness when flexing and extending his limbs, who acts in full awareness when wearing his robes and carrying his outer robe and bowl, who acts in full awareness when eating, drinking, consuming food, and tasting, who acts in full awareness when defecating or urinating, who acts in full awareness when walking, standing, sitting, falling asleep, waking up, talking, and keeping silent. As he abides thus diligent, ardent, and resolute, his memories and intentions based on the household life are abandoned. With their abandoning, his mind becomes steadied internally, quieted, brought to singleness, and concentrated. That too is how a bhikkhu develops mindfulness of the body. Bhikkhus, anyone who has developed and cultivated mindfulness of the body, has included within himself whatever wholesome states there are that partake of true knowledge. Just as anyone who has extended his mind over the great ocean has included within it whatever streams there are that flow into the ocean, so too, anyone who has developed and cultivated mindfulness of the body has included within himself whatever wholesome states there are that partake of true knowledge. Mindfulness directed to the body, a strong pillar for the mind. One dwells without having set up mindfulness of the body. Suppose, bhikkhus, a man would catch 6 animals with different domains and different feeding grounds, and tie them by a strong rope. He would catch a snake, a crocodile, a bird, a dog, a jackal, and a monkey, and tie each by a strong rope. Having done so, he would tie the ropes together with a knot in the middle and release them. Then, bhikkhus, those 6 animals with different domains and different feeding grounds would each pull in the direction of its own feeding ground and domain. The snake would pull one way, thinking, "Let me enter an anthill." The crocodile would pull another way, thinking, "Let me enter the water." The bird would pull another way, thinking, "Let me fly up into the sky." The dog would pull another way, thinking, "Let me enter the village." The jackal would pull another way, thinking, "Let me enter a charned ground." The monkey would pull another way, thinking, "Let me enter a forest." Now, when these 6 animals become worn out and fatigued, they would be dominated by one among them that's strongest. They would submit to it and come under its control. So too, bhikkhus, when a bhikkhu has not developed and cultivated mindfulness directed to the body, the eye pulls in the direction of agreeable forms, and disagreeable forms are repulsive. The ear pulls in the direction of agreeable sounds, and disagreeable sounds are repulsive. The nose pulls in the direction of agreeable odors, and disagreeable odors are repulsive. The tongue pulls in the direction of agreeable tastes, and disagreeable tastes are repulsive. The body pulls in the direction of agreeable tactile objects, and disagreeable tactile objects are repulsive. The mind pulls in the direction of agreeable mental phenomena, and agreeable mental phenomena are repulsive. It is in such a way that there is non-restraint. One dwells having set up mindfulness of the body. Suppose, bhikkhus, a man would catch 6 animals with different domains and different feeding grounds, and tie them by a strong rope. He would catch a snake, a crocodile, a bird, a jackal, and a monkey, and tie each by a strong rope. Having done so, he would bind them to a strong post or pillar. Then, bhikkhus, those 6 animals with different domains and different feeding grounds would each pull in the direction of its own feeding ground and domain. The snake would pull one way, thinking, "Let me enter an anthill." The crocodile would pull another way, thinking, "Let me enter the water." The bird would pull another way, thinking, "Let me fly up into the sky." The dog would pull another way, thinking, "Let me enter a village." The jackal would pull another way, thinking, "Let me enter a charned ground." The monkey would pull another way, thinking, "Let me enter a forest." Now, bhikkhus, when these 6 animals become worn out and fatigued, they would stand close to that post or pillar. They would sit down there. They would lie down there. So too, bhikkhus, when a bhikkhu has developed and cultivated mindfulness directed to the body, the eye does not pull in the direction of agreeable forms, nor are disagreeable forms repulsive. The ear does not pull in the direction of agreeable sounds, nor are disagreeable sounds repulsive. The nose does not pull in the direction of agreeable odors, nor are disagreeable odors repulsive. The tongue does not pull in the direction of agreeable tastes, nor are disagreeable tastes repulsive. The body does not pull in the direction of agreeable tactile objects, nor are disagreeable tactile objects repulsive. The mind does not pull in the direction of agreeable mental phenomena, nor are disagreeable mental phenomena repulsive. It is in such a way that there is restraint. A strong post or pillar, this, bhikkhus, is a designation for mindfulness directed to the body. Therefore, bhikkhus, you should train yourselves thus. We will develop and cultivate mindfulness directed to the body. Make it our vehicle. Make it our basis. Stabilize it. Exercise ourselves in it, and fully perfect it. Thus should you train yourselves. The simile of the tortoise. Bhikkhus, in the past, a tortoise was searching for food along the bank of a river one evening. On that same evening, a jackal, who was also searching for food along the bank of that same river. When the tortoise saw the jackal in the distance searching for food, it drew its limbs and neck inside its shell and passed the time, keeping still and silent. The jackal had also seen the tortoise in the distance searching for food. So he approached and waited close by, thinking, "When this tortoise extends one or another of its limbs or its neck, I will grab it right on the spot, pull it out, and eat it." But because the tortoise did not extend any of its limbs or its neck, the jackal, failing to gain access to it, lost interest in it and departed. So too, bhikkhus, Mara, the evil one, is constantly and continually waiting close by you, thinking, "Perhaps I will gain access to him through the eye, or through the ear, or through the nose, or through the tongue, or through the body, or through the mind." Therefore, bhikkhus, dwell guarding the doors of the sense faculties, having seen a form with the eye, having heard a sound with the ear, having smelled an odor with the nose, having savored a taste with the tongue, having felt a tactile object with the body, having cognized a mental phenomenon with the mind. Do not grasp its signs and features, since, if you leave the eye faculty unguarded, the ear faculty unguarded, the nose faculty unguarded, the tongue faculty unguarded, the body faculty unguarded, the mind faculty unguarded, evil and wholesome states of covetousness and displeasure might invade you. Practice the way of its restraint. Guard the eye faculty, the ear faculty, the nose faculty, the tongue faculty, the body faculty, the mind faculty. Undertake the restraint of the eye faculty, the ear faculty, the nose faculty, the tongue faculty, the body faculty, the mind faculty. When, bhikkhus, you dwell guarding the doors of the sense faculties, Mara, the evil one, failing to gain access to you, will lose interest in you and depart, just as the jackal departed from the tortoise. Drawing in the mind's thoughts, as the tortoise draws its limbs into its shell, independent, not harassing others, fully quenched, a bhikkhu would not blame anyone. The simile of the bowl of oil. Bhikkhus, suppose that on hearing the most beautiful girl of the land, the most beautiful girl of the land, a great crowd of people would assemble. Now that most beautiful girl of the land would dance exquisitely and sing exquisitely. On hearing, the most beautiful girl of the land is dancing, the most beautiful girl of the land is singing, an even larger crowd of people would assemble. Then a man would come along, wishing to live, not wishing to die, wishing for happiness, averse to suffering. Someone would say to him, "Good man, you must carry around this bowl of oil, filled to the brim between the crowd and the most beautiful girl of the land." A man with a drawn sword will be following right behind you, and wherever you spill even a little of it, right there he will fell your head. What do you think, bhikkhus? Would that man stop attending to that bowl of oil and out of negligence turn his attention outwards? No, venerable sir. I have made up this simile, bhikkhus, in order to convey a meaning. This here is the meaning. The bowl of oil filled to the brim. This is the designation for mindfulness directed to the body. Therefore, bhikkhus, you should train yourselves thus. We will develop and cultivate mindfulness directed to the body. Make it our vehicle. Make it our basis. Stabilize it. Exercise ourselves in it, and fully perfect it. Thus, bhikkhus, should you train yourselves. Great good of mindfulness directed to the body. Bhikkhus, they do not partake of the deathless who do not partake of mindfulness directed to the body. They partake of the deathless who partake of mindfulness directed to the body. Bhikkhus, they have neglected the deathless who have neglected mindfulness directed to the body. They have undertaken the deathless who have undertaken mindfulness directed to the body. Bhikkhus, they have not pursued the deathless who have not pursued mindfulness directed to the body. They have pursued the deathless who have pursued mindfulness directed to the body. Training mind imbued with loving kindness, without hostility, without ill will. Bhikkhus, there are these 5 courses of speech that others may use when they address you. 1. Their speech may be timely or untimely. 2. True or untrue. 3. Gentle or harsh. 4. Connected with good or with harm. 5. Spoken with a mind of loving kindness or with inner hate. Herein, Bhikkhus, you should train thus. Our minds will remain unaffected, and we shall utter no evil words. We shall abide compassionate for their welfare, with a mind of loving kindness, without inner hate. We shall abide pervading that person with a mind imbued with loving kindness, and starting with him, we shall abide pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind similar to the earth, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. That is how you should train, Bhikkhus. Bhikkhus, suppose a man came with crimson, turmeric, indigo, or carmine and said, I shall draw pictures and make pictures appear on empty space. What do you think, Bhikkhus? Could that man draw pictures and make pictures appear on empty space? No, Venerable Sir. Why is that? Because empty space is formless and invisible. He cannot possibly draw pictures there or make pictures appear there. Eventually, the man would reap only weariness and disappointment. So too, Bhikkhus, there are these 5 courses of speech that others may use when they address you. Herein, Bhikkhus, you should train thus. Our minds will remain unaffected, and we shall utter no evil words. We shall abide compassionate for their welfare, with a mind of loving kindness, without inner hate. We shall abide pervading that person with a mind imbued with loving kindness, and starting with him, we shall abide pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind similar to empty space, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. That is how you should train, Bhikkhus. The Buddha also made several other similes. A simile of a man who came with a hoe and a basket, and said, I shall make this great earth to be without earth. A simile of a man with a blazing grass torch, and said, I shall heat up and burn away the river Ganges with this blazing grass torch. Eventually that man would reap only weariness and disappointment. Bhikkhus, even if bandits were to sever you savagely limb by limb with a 2-handled saw, he who gave rise to a mind of hate towards them would not be carrying out my teaching. Herein, Bhikkhus, you should train thus. Our minds will remain unaffected, and we shall utter no evil words. We shall abide compassionate for their welfare, with a mind of loving kindness, without inner hate. We shall abide pervading them with a mind imbued with loving kindness. And starting with them, we shall abide pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. That is how you should train, Bhikkhus. Bhikkhus, if you keep this advice on the simile of the saw constantly in mind, do you see any course of speech, trivial or gross, that you could not endure? No, Venerable Sir. Therefore, Bhikkhus, you should keep this advice on the simile of the saw constantly in mind. That will lead to your welfare and happiness for a long time. Benefits of various kind of developed meditation. Rahula, a developed meditation on loving kindness. For when you develop meditation on loving kindness, any ill will be abandoned. Rahula, develop meditation on compassion. For when you develop meditation on compassion, any cruelty will be abandoned. Rahula, develop meditation on appreciative joy. For when you develop meditation on appreciative joy, any discontent will be abandoned. Rahula, develop meditation on equanimity. For when you develop meditation on equanimity, any aversion will be abandoned. Rahula, develop meditation on foulness. For when you develop meditation on foulness, any lust will be abandoned. Rahula, develop meditation on the perception of impermanence. For when you develop meditation on the perception of impermanence, the conceit, I am, will be abandoned. One who is capable of entering and dwelling in right concentration. Bhikkhus. Possessing 5 qualities, a bhikkhu is incapable of entering and dwelling in right concentration. What 5? Here, a bhikkhu cannot patiently endure forms, sounds, odors, tastes, and tactile objects. Possessing these 5 qualities, a bhikkhu is incapable of entering and dwelling in right concentration. Bhikkhus. Possessing 5 other qualities, a bhikkhu is capable of entering and dwelling in right concentration. What 5? Here, a bhikkhu can patiently endure forms, sounds, odors, tastes, and tactile objects. Possessing these 5 qualities, a bhikkhu is capable of entering and dwelling in right concentration. Do concentration in the morning, in the middle of the day, and in the evening. Bhikkhus. Possessing 3 factors, a shopkeeper is capable of acquiring wealth not yet acquired and of increasing wealth already acquired. What 3? Here, a shopkeeper diligently applies himself to his work in the morning, in the middle of the day, and in the evening. Possessing these 3 factors, a shopkeeper is capable of acquiring wealth not yet acquired and of increasing wealth already acquired. So too, possessing 3 factors, a bhikkhu is capable of achieving a wholesome state not yet attained, and of increasing a wholesome state already attained. What 3? Here, a bhikkhu diligently applies himself to an object of concentration in the morning, in the middle of the day, and in the evening. Possessing these 3 factors, a bhikkhu is capable of achieving a wholesome state not yet attained, and of increasing a wholesome state already attained. Remote lodgings in forests and jungle groves are hard to endure. Pante. I wish to resort to remote lodgings in forests and jungle groves. Remote lodgings in forests and jungle groves are hard to endure. Upali, solitude, is hard to undertake and hard to delight in. When he is alone, the woods steal the mind of a bhikkhu who does not gain concentration. It can be expected that one who says, I do not gain concentration, yet I will resort to remote lodgings in forests and jungle groves, will either sink or float away. Suppose, Upali, there was a large lake, and a bull elephant 7 or 8 cubits in size would come along. He might think, "Let me enter this lake and playfully wash my ears and back. I will bathe and drink, come out, and set off wherever I want." He then enters the lake and playfully washes his ears and back. He bathes and drinks, comes out, and sets off wherever he wants. How so? Because his large body finds a footing in the depths. Then a hare or a cat comes along. It might think, "How is a bull elephant different from myself? I'll enter this lake and playfully wash my ears and back. I will bathe and drink, come out, and set off wherever I want." Then, without reflecting, it hastily enters the deep lake. It can be expected that it will either sink or float away. Why so? Because its small body does not find a footing in the depths. So too, it can be expected that one who would say, "I do not gain concentration, yet I will resort to remote lodgings in forests and jungle groves," will either sink or float away. Come, Upali, dwell within the Sangha. While you dwell within the Sangha, you will be at ease. 4 times, rightly developed and coordinated, gradually culminate in the destruction of the taints. Bhikkhus, these 4 times, rightly developed and coordinated, gradually culminate in the destruction of the taints. What for? The time for listening to the Dhamma, the time for discussing the Dhamma, the time for serenity, and the time for insight. These 4 times, rightly developed and coordinated, gradually culminate in the destruction of the taints. Just as, when it is raining, and the rain pours down in thick droplets on a mountaintop, the water flows down along the slope and fills the clefts, gullies, and creeks. These, becoming full, fill up the pools. These, becoming full, fill up the lakes. These, becoming full, fill up the streams. These, becoming full, fill up the rivers. And these, becoming full, fill up the great ocean. So too, these 4 times, rightly developed and coordinated, gradually culminate in the destruction of the taints. One should be mindful and clearly aware. Monks. A monk should be mindful and clearly aware. This is our charge to you. And how is a monk mindful? Here, a monk abides contemplating the body as body, earnestly, clearly aware, mindful, and having put away all hankering and fretting for the world. And likewise with regards to feelings, mind and mind objects. That is how a monk is mindful. And how is a monk clearly aware? Here, a monk, when going forward or backward, is aware of what he is doing. In looking forward or back, he is aware of what he is doing. In bending and stretching, he is aware of what he is doing. In carrying his inner and outer robe and bowl, he is aware of what he is doing. In eating, drinking, chewing, and savoring, he is aware of what he is doing. In passing excrement or urine, he is aware of what he is doing. In walking, standing, sitting, or lying down, in keeping awake, in speaking or in staying silent. He is aware of what he is doing. That is how a monk is clearly aware. A monk should be mindful and clearly aware. This is our charge to you.